everybody, it's the War Hipster here, coming at you with another Contrast Plus painting tutorial, and today we return once more to the Space Wolves with the High King of Fenris himself, Logan Grimnar, who's got an absolutely breathtaking new model. It's fantastic, isn't it? Look at that, wow. Beautiful. Well, we're going to be painting him up today in a Contrast Plus style, as usual, and a massive thank you goes out to Games Workshop, who sent me this one early to build up and paint with all of you. So, without further ado, we're going to jump in, we're going to start painting. It's been primed in Grace here, and the colour we're going to be using first is a roughly 4 parts Space Wolves Grey to 1 part Lahmian Medium mix. And this is just to help us improve the flow. And we're going to be applying this over the top of all of Logan's Space Wolves Grey armour. So this is going to be almost all of him, excluding his right pauldron, our left. So with all that Lahmian Medium and Space Wolves Grey mix applied, what we're then going to do is we're going to shade all of that Space Wolves Grey armour using some Tyran Blue. Now if you want to, you can also thin this down in the same ratio, roughly 4 parts Tyran Blue to 1 part Lahmian Medium. And as always, it's just to improve the flow. But don't worry if you get slightly kind of darker parts or a little bit of patchiness here and there, because later on in the video I'll show you how we're going to fix it, should you need to. So with that all done, typically what we would do next is all of the black details. However, we're not going to be doing that. Instead, what we're going to do is we're going to work on the large pelt, and as a consequence also the smaller pelts, but we're mostly going to focus here on the large pelt because it's such a big feature of the model. And what we're going to do for that is we're going to take 3 colours: Skeleton Horde, Gore-Grunta Fur and Cygor Brown. And we're going to start by applying Skeleton Horde over the top of all of the pelt. just like that. So once all that skeleton horde is applied, what we're going to do is we're going to take some Gore-Grunta Fur, and we're going to apply this over the top of where we want to sort of make a pattern. So we're going to apply this coming down the middle of each of the legs. I'm going to apply it going up the cheeks, over the top of the fur on the head, like that. Apply it over the top of the tops of the ears, like so. I'm going to bring it down the middle of that side as well. And then on the back here, I'm going to apply quite a lot of this Gore-Grunta Fur. Like that sort of thing. And then what we're going to do is wash the brush and grab a little bit of Cygor Brown. I'm going to apply this over the top of the middle of the head. Bring it down the back in just a minute, but I'm going to bring it down here as well, consequently over here too. Like that. As mentioned before, on the back we're going to bring it down just like that. Bring a little bit of it onto the cheek. Like so. And then what we do is we wash the brush and go back to Skeleton Horde. We can use this to just kind of move the paints around . Just like that sort of thing. And what we will then do, once we're happy with that top part, we will then do the rest of it. This is significantly easier here. And you just want to continue like this until you're happy with it. So with that all done, we're then going to take some Ratling Grime. And we're going to apply this over the top of the paws. So with that all done, we're now going to shade that pelt using some Reikland Fleshshade. I'm going to apply this over the top of all of the fur bits. We don't need to apply this over the top of the Ratling Grime bits though. So with that all done, it's a little bit early again, but what we're going to do is we're going to take some Screaming Skull, we're going to gently dry brush the pelts. So with that all done, what we're now going to do is we're going to take some Flesh Tearers Red. And we're going to apply this over the top of the tabard and the inside of the cloak. And just whilst we're waiting for all that Flesh Tearers Red to dry, what we're going to do is going to work on the Axe Head. I'm going to be using 4 colours to do this. We've got Gryph-Hound Orange, Flesh Tearers Red, Sigvald Burgundy, and Cygor Brown. So what we're going to do is we're going to start by taking some Gryph-Hound Orange. And we're going to apply this over the top of the entirety of one half of the axe. Well, the entirety of the Axe Head, but for the purposes of the video, I'm going to do it like this. There we go. So once we've got that Gryph-Hound Orange on, like so, we're then going to wash the brush, touch off the water, we're going to grab some Flesh Tearers Red. And starting from over here, we're going to apply some Flesh Tearers Red, like this, over the top of the blade. Then we're going to wash the brush, grab a little bit of Sigvald Burgundy. We're going to apply this over the blade as well, like so. And then I'm going to take a little bit of Cygor Brown and over the top of the cutting edge, I'm going to add some of that Cygor Brown, like so. And if you need to, you can grab a little bit of Gryph-Hound Orange and use this to just kind of smooth out the blends in the blade. Like that. And so with that all done to the axe head, what we're going to do is we're going to take a roughly 1-to-1 mix of Lahmian Medium and Cygor Brown. I'm going to apply this over top of the tabard and the inside of the cloak. And so with that now done, we can take some Shyish Purple. We're going to apply this over top of the grip of the axe. So with that now done, we can take some Black Legion and we're going to apply this over top of all of those black details at long last. So this is going to be areas such as the shoulder, the soft joints in his armour, the casing of the Storm Bolter, his belt, and all the little leather straps and stuff scattered around the model. So with that all done, we're now going to take some Guilliman Flesh and we're going to apply this over top of Logan's face. And with that Guilliman Flesh applied, we're then going to take some Black Templar. And we're going to apply this over the top of the little ritual stones. There's one here on the belt and there's one on the back. And so with that all done, we're then going to take some Skeleton Horde. I'm going to apply this over the top of the skulls, little teeth trophies scattered around the model. We've also just applied some of the Black Templar over the top of the Crux Terminatus, for lack of a better word, because that's going to be the grey later on. If you've been following along with the Space Wolves videos, you know that's how we do things. We'll sort it out a little bit later, as you'll know. But the next colour we're going to be using is some Imperial Fist. I'm going to apply this over the top of the star, this pauldron. And so with that all done, we're then going to take some Nuln Oil. And we're going to apply this over the top of his hair and beard, and over the top of the remaining bit of detail on his shoulder. And so with that all done, we're now going to add some metallics, and we're going to start with the biggest one, which is going to be some thinned down Retributor Armour. And we're going to be applying this over top of all of the kind of decorative details, including the designs on his armour like this one, the panels of runes scattered around. It's one of those times where having the box art open in front of you will be quite useful. And so with that all done, we're now going to take some thinned down Iron Warriors. I'm going to apply this over the top of all the remaining details on Logan. Actually, we're not going to be applying this over our two wolves. So with that done, it's now time to add some shades. The first of these is going to be some Carroburg Crimson. We're going to apply this over top of all the gold. And with all that Carroburg Crimson applied, we're then going to take some Nuln Oil. I'm going to use this to shade the silver and the black of the shoulder and the black of the casing on the Sword Bolter. So with that all done, Logan Grimnar is now what I would call a War Hipster battle ready, and he's already looking pretty fantastic. However, we're not going to leave him there, of course not. No, we're going to take him to the next level. We're going to do this by adding some layers and some highlights. Now, the first of these is going to be a thinned down Russ Grey glaze. It's going to be 1 part Russ Grey to sort of 4 or 5 parts water. I'm going to use this to just sort of glaze up the armour. Now this is going to help us kind of smooth out any patchiness and cover in any mistakes, but it's also going to help us just sort of punch up that colour just a little bit. So with that all done, what we're now going to do is we're going to highlight. I'm going to start by taking some thinned down Fenrisian Grey. I'm going to use this to highlight all of the blue armour. So with all that Fenrisian Grey applied, we're then going to take some thinned down blue horror. I'm going to use this to add some little spot highlights to all of that blue. So with that all done, we're now going to move on to something that isn't blue armour, and we're going to move on to all the black details. And the colour we're going to be using to highlight these is some thinned down Dawnstone. Like so. However, for those ritual stones and for the shoulder, I'm going to use this to fully relayer them. And with all of that Dawnstone applied, we're then going to take some thinned down Administratum Grey. And we're going to use this to add just a couple of little spot highlights to all those black details. So we're just going to look for the corners and the sharpest points, things like those claws on the pelt like that. However, the other thing we are going to do here with the Administratum Grey is we're going to use this to highlight the ritual stones and the Crux Terminatus. So with that all done, our next job is to take some thinned down Wazdakka Red, and we're going to use this to highlight the dark red and the darkest parts of the axe. And so with all that Wazdakka Red applied, we're then going to take a tiny amount of some thinned down Squig Orange. I'm going to use this to add just some tiny little spot highlights to the axe and to the cloth. So with that all done, we're now going to move on to the white details. I'm going to take some thinned down Corax White. I'm going to use this to highlight the hair and the insignia upon his shoulder. So with that all done, what we're now going to do is we're going to take a tiny little bit of Black Legion. I'm going to apply this over top of Logan's eyes. With that Black Legion applied, we also applied it over the top of the service studs on his forehead, but what we're going to do next is we're going to take a teensy tiny little dot of Screaming Skull. We're going to use this to add a little dot in the corners of each of his eyes. What we will also do with the Screaming Skull is we will use this to highlight the teeth and bones. With that Screaming Skull all applied, we're then going to take a small amount of some Flayed One Flesh, and we're going to use this to highlight his face. And so with that all done, we then want to take a small amount of some Yriel Yellow. I'm going to use this to add a little dot in the back corners of the wolf pelt's eyes. Like that. So with that all done, we're now going to take some thinned down Iron Breaker. I'm going to use this to highlight all of our silver details. And so with all of that silver highlighted, we're now going to take some thinned down Liberator Gold. And we're going to use this to highlight all the gold, but it's kind of more of a sort of dirty highlight, because what we're going to do is on any large open areas, such as the insignia here on the knee, we're basically just going to relayer this. It's quite a wide edge highlight, as it were. So with all that Liberator Gold applied, we're then going to take two colours, Frostheart and Blood Angel's Red. I'm going to use these over the top of the gems. So what we're going to do is we're going to use the Frostheart over the top of this gem here on the axe, and we're going to use it over the top of the gem set into his shoulder over here. However, we are going to use the Blood Angel's Red over the top of the gem on his chest and on his back. So this one back here on the back. So with that all done, Logan Grimnar is now finished. Except now we've got two other large things to do, which is the two wolves. And, well, these are going to be a lot simpler than they might initially look. So, we're going to jump in and start doing them. We're going to start here on the right-hand side. We're going to be using three colours to do this. We're going to be using Agrax Earthshade, Gore-Grunta Fur, and Cygor Brown. It's much like the pelt here. What we're going to do is we're going to start with some Agrax Earthshade. And we're going to apply this over the top of basically the entirety of the wolf. So, we're going to start just here on the shoulder. You get that Agrax Earthshade all over. like this sort of thing. And then once it's fully covered, I know this one isn't just yet, but what we're then going to do is take some Gore-Grunta Fur, and we're just going to apply some of that Gore-Grunta Fur, like this. Wash the brush between. So that sort of thing. And we're going to wash the brush. Grab a little bit of Cygor Brown. And then we're just going to apply the Cygor Brown. Like so. Over the middle. So with that all done to this wolf, for the other, it's exactly the same sort of technique, but what we're going to do is we're going to use Agrax Earthshade, Wildwood, and Black Templar. Starting with the Agrax Earthshade. There we go. Let's get a decent place to stop before we do the Wildwood, which we're then going to apply much like that sort of thing. And then wash the brush, grab some Black Templar. And whilst we wait for all that to fully dry, we're going to do another thing that takes a little while to dry, and I'm going to apply my basing material here, which is going to be some Stirland Mud. And I'm going to apply that over the top of all this negative space around the outside of the base. So with all things fully dry now, what we're going to do is we're going to take some Carroburg Crimson, and we're going to apply this over the top of the mouths of our walls, like so, and over the top of any scars. And with that all done, we're then going to take some Black Legion, and we're going to apply this over the top of all of their claws, their noses, eyes, and over the top of any of the little mechanical bits. So with that all done, what we're now going to do is we're going to apply a dry brush to both of our walls, and that dry brush is going to be some Screaming Skull. So with that all done, we're now going to take some Screaming Skull, and we're going to use this to just pick out the teeth. And so with that all done, we're then going to take a teensy tiny little dot of Yriel Yellow. I'm going to apply this in the back corner of each of their eyeballs. So with that all done, it's now time to colour in this large rock. And well, the colour we're going to be using for this is some Black Templar. I'm going to be applying this well over the top of all of the rock. And so with that all done, we're then going to take some skeleton horde and we're going to apply this over top of the bones. And so with that all done, we're now going to take some thinned down iron breaker and we're going to use this to pick out the bullet casings, and we're going to use this to highlight those mechanical bits on our walls. And so to finish things off, here at the end of all things, we're going to take some Tyrant Skull. I'm going to dry brush this over the top of the entirety of the base. And so with that base now complete, I added a couple of little tufts from Gamer's Grass. Logan Grimnar, the High King of Fenris, is now finished in his brand new plastic, awesome, wonderful model. There are no slays around here, only slaying done by the High King himself. And I think it's absolutely fantastic and I'm really proud of how it's come out. So yeah, let me know your thoughts in the comments. I'd really appreciate that.
If you enjoyed this video, you love the channel and you'd like to support me further, you absolutely can do so by heading to patreon.com/warhipster, just like all of these wonderful, amazing people have done. And alternatively, you could become a YouTube channel member by clicking on the join button below, exactly like these fabulous folks have done, scrolling up on the screen before you. There are so many of you out there that it really takes my breath away, and I cannot thank you enough for everything you do, as without you I wouldn't be able to keep making these Contrast Plus videos. And if you really like this video and you want to send me a little thanks, just click on the thanks button just below this video. Don't forget to share it, like it, comment on it, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel, and to make sure you stay up to date, don't forget to click the bell icon. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you all very soon in the next one. Happy wargaming.